Today we're going to talk about boundaries and relationships. I notice a lot of times with clients, and you probably do too, that everyone comes from a different family culture when it comes to boundaries, as with everything else. So for example, two people get together. One comes from a family where you knock on the door and you wait for a response before entering. Another person comes from a family where you just open a door. Some families do an in-between way where they knock on the door and then just open it without waiting for a response. So every family has their own way of doing things, and two people get married and they have totally different ways about boundaries. So some families have really healthy, tight boundaries. Some families have looser boundaries, which still could be healthy depending on what it is. And some families have no boundaries. So these are things that need to be negotiated. So one of the things that sometimes people think is that if they're married, they are allowed to open their spouse's mail, they're allowed to look at their spouse's phone, they're allowed to open up the computer and look at their emails. And even when it comes to thought and information, people sometimes think that because they're married, they get to know everything that's in their spouse's mind. So for example, if someone goes out with their friend to Starbucks, the spouse thinks that it's okay to pressure them to tell them, what did you talk about with your friend? And maybe the person doesn't want to talk about what they spoke about with their friend. Or someone has a conversation with their boss, or someone had a difficult day and things went on. You don't have to share it. Sometimes people need space to process things, and sometimes somebody doesn't want to share something at all, and that's okay too. It's so important to respect each other, and that actually builds intimacy. Well, there are people who think that in order to have intimacy, you need to know everything about the person, and it's okay to just find everything out.
Yeah, it's in a way counterintuitive. People think that the way you're going to be close is by knowing everything about the other person, but that's not actually the way that you be close. That might be evidence that you are close in a certain way. The way to be close is to really be able to see and appreciate the other person for who they are. And that's about boundaries. Maybe this is something the person wants to keep private right now. Maybe this is something the person's uncomfortable with sharing, even though ideally they should share it. Maybe they're not ready to share it. And then there's situations where the spouse doesn't trust the other spouse, so they're looking at their emails, or they're snooping, or they feel nervous about who they're friends with, or jealous. All those things are, the solution is not to run roughshod over the boundary. The solution is to notice that there's obviously a problem. Either there's a problem with trusting the person, or there's a problem with the person being trustworthy. If you feel that you have to snoop on your spouse, either your spouse is somebody that has given you a sense that you don't trust them, or you're the kind of person that has difficulty trusting. Either way, the answer is not to blow through those boundaries, because real love and real intimacy comes from the voluntary giving over and sharing and connecting and understanding that I am I and you are you. And if we're fortunate, every now and then we can be together. It doesn't come from obliterating the I and obliterating the you. So, you have a problem, you don't trust your spouse, or you're worried, or you're jealous, or you want to know what's going on. The answer is not to force them. The answer is to realize we have a problem, and we need to figure out what the problem exactly is. So let us just remember that good fences make good neighbors,
and
but good boundaries make good lovers.